I overheard my family joking, "He's just our wallet with legs," while I was in the kitchen preparing their breakfast. My sister cackled, "He'll pay no matter what." I didn't say a word. But when the rent was due, I vanished completely. I, 32M, stood at the stove flipping pancakes when I heard them laughing in the living room. The apartment walls were thin enough that sound traveled easily, but they must have thought the sizzling pan would cover their voices. It didn't. My sister's voice came through first, that sharp cackle she had when she found something particularly amusing. She said something about me being their wallet with legs, and my mother chimed in with agreement. My brother added that I'd pay no matter what, because that's just what I did. The three of them dissolved into laughter like they'd just told the world's funniest joke. I stood there with the spatula in my hand, watching bubbles form in the pancake batter, and something inside me went completely still. Not angry, not hurt exactly, just quiet. Like a switch had flipped off. They had no idea I'd heard them. I finished making breakfast, plated everything nicely, brought it out to the table with a smile, and asked if anyone wanted more coffee. My mother said yes without looking up from her phone. My sister complained that her pancakes weren't as fluffy as last week's. My brother just grunted and kept eating. I'd been supporting them for 3 years. It started when my father passed away suddenly from a heart attack. I was 29, just starting to build something for myself after years of working 2 jobs to pay off my student loans. I had a decent software engineering position, a small apartment I was proud of, and for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. Then Dad died, and everything changed. Mom couldn't afford the house on her own. My sister was 26 at the time, working part-time at a retail store and complaining constantly about how unfair life was. My brother was 34, jumping between gig jobs and always having some excuse about why he couldn't hold down steady employment. None of them had savings. None of them had plans. I was the responsible one, the one with the stable job and the good head on his shoulders. So naturally, I became the solution. I sold my apartment and moved everyone into a bigger rental closer to my office. The rent was nearly double what I'd been paying, but it had enough space for all 4 of us. I told myself it was temporary, just until everyone got back on their feet. My mother was grieving and needed time. My siblings would find better jobs. We'd figure it out together. 3 years later, nothing had changed except my bank account balance. My mother hadn't looked for work at all. She spent her days watching television and meeting friends for lunch on my credit card. When I suggested she might want to find something part-time, just to stay active, she looked at me like I'd suggested she walk across hot coals. She reminded me that she'd raised 3 children and worked hard her whole life, and didn't she deserve to rest now? My father would have wanted her taken care of. My sister eventually quit her retail job because her manager was mean. Then she started taking online courses that never seemed to lead anywhere. She'd talk about becoming a social media influencer or starting an online boutique, but nothing ever materialized beyond elaborate shopping trips where she needed new clothes for content creation. The content, naturally, was my responsibility to fund. My brother was the worst. He'd work for a few months, save nothing, then quit because the job wasn't fulfilling or his boss didn't appreciate him. He'd spend weeks playing video games and ordering takeout, assuring everyone he was networking and looking for the right opportunity. The right opportunity never came, but the takeout bills certainly did. And I paid for everything. Rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, car payments, phone bills, streaming services, my sister's online courses, my brother's networking dinners, my mother's lunches with friends. Everything. I stopped buying things for myself. My clothes got old and worn. I drove the same beat-up Honda I'd had since college. I meal prepped cheap lunches and skipped social events because I couldn't afford them anymore. My friends stopped inviting me places after I declined enough times. Meanwhile, my family lived comfortably. My sister got regular manicures. My brother had the latest gaming console. My mother redecorated her bedroom twice. I told myself I was being a good son, a good brother. Family takes care of family. This is what Dad would have wanted. But standing there in the kitchen, holding that spatula, hearing them laugh about me being a wallet with legs, something crystallized. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as an ATM. I finished breakfast in silence while they scrolled through their phones. My sister asked if I could send her money for a concert ticket. My brother mentioned he needed new tires. My mother said her book club was going to a fancy restaurant next week and she'd need a new outfit. I said sure to all of it. Then I went to my room and started planning. The The rent was due on the 1st of the month. Today was the 18th. I had roughly 2 weeks. I opened my laptop and started making lists. First, I found a small studio apartment across town. The building was older, not fancy, but clean and affordable. The rent was a third of what I was currently paying. I could put down first, last, and deposit immediately. I filled out the application that night. Next, I went through my finances meticulously. I'd been the only one on the lease since we moved in. The utilities were in my name. The internet, the insurance, everything was mine. My family contributed nothing in writing, nothing traceable. They just lived there because I allowed it. I looked at my savings account and felt sick. 3 years ago, I'd had nearly $40,000 saved. Now I had just under $8,000. I'd burned through $32,000 supporting 3 able-bodied adults who could have been supporting themselves. The apartment application was approved within 3 days. I paid everything up front and got the keys. Then I started moving my things. Not all at once, nothing obvious. I worked from home twice a week, and on those days, I'd pack a box or two of important items and load them into my trunk. Documents, photos, my father's watch that he'd left me, clothes, books, my laptop accessories. Anything that mattered. My family noticed nothing. They were too busy existing in their comfortable bubble. I opened a new bank account at a different institution and had my paychecks redirected there. I closed the old account, the one my family knew about, the one they'd somehow convinced me to give them access to for emergencies. When I checked the transaction history one last time, I found multiple transfers I hadn't authorized. My sister taking money for shopping trips. My brother pulling cash for bar tabs. My mother using it like her personal fund. I documented everything. Screenshots, bank statements, receipts. I didn't know if I'd need them, but I wanted records. On the 30th, I took a personal day from work. I waited until everyone left the apartment. My mother was meeting friends. My sister had plans with her boyfriend. My brother was doing whatever he did during the day. I loaded the last of my belongings into my car. Took one final walk through the apartment I'd been paying for. It felt strange, leaving like this, but also liberating. Like removing a weight I'd been carrying so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. I left my key on the kitchen counter with a brief note. It said I'd paid rent through the end of the month, but after that, they were on their own. I wished them well. Then I drove to my new studio apartment and unplugged completely. New phone number, new address, new email. I blocked all of them on social media. I told my HR department that I had family issues and under no circumstances should they give out my contact information. The 1st of the month came and went. Update 1. I'd been in my new place for about a week when the first wave hit. A friend from my old neighborhood messaged me on an old gaming platform I'd forgotten I'd even logged into. She wanted to know if I was okay because my mother had come to her house crying, saying I'd disappeared and she was worried I'd hurt myself. I told her I was fine, just dealing with some family stuff, and asked her not to share my contact information with anyone. She said my mother seemed really distraught. I'm sure she did. The rent I'd paid covered through the 30th. On the 1st, they would have received an eviction notice for non-payment. 3 adults with no jobs or income, facing homelessness in 30 days. I didn't feel guilty. I felt nothing. Over the next few days, the messages escalated. My mother tried calling my work, but HR shut her down per my instructions. My sister created new social media accounts to get around my blocks, sending long messages about how I'd abandoned my family and how could I be so cruel after everything they'd sacrificed for me. I read that one twice. Everything they'd sacrificed. I wanted to laugh, but it just felt hollow. My brother was the most persistent. He found my email somehow, probably an old one I'd used for family planning stuff. He sent a long message explaining that this was all a misunderstanding, that they'd just been joking around, that I was being too sensitive. He said the rent was due and they needed me to handle it like I always did. I deleted it without responding. Then he sent another one. This time the tone was different, angrier. He said I was being selfish and immature. That family doesn't abandon family. That I'd regret this. I blocked that email address too. Through my old neighbor friend, I heard updates. My mother had tried to take over the lease, but couldn't qualify without income. My sister's boyfriend dumped her when he realized she expected him to support her. My brother finally got a job at a warehouse, something he'd always claimed was beneath him. They had to move out by the end of the month. I heard they found a small 2-bedroom apartment in a rough part of town. All 3 of them crammed together. My mother had to get a job as a receptionist, My sister was working fast food. I should have felt something. Guilt, satisfaction, vindication. Something. Instead, I just felt tired. I started therapy around this time. My therapist asked me why I'd let it go on so long. I didn't have a good answer. Fear of being alone, maybe. Fear of being the bad guy. Fear that if I stopped taking care of them, it would mean I was the kind of person who abandoned his family, just like they were now saying. My therapist pointed out that taking care of yourself isn't abandonment. That setting boundaries isn't cruelty. That people who actually love you don't treat you like a wallet with legs. That phrase haunted me. Wallet with legs. Update 2. 3 months after I left, my mother showed up at my office. I don't know how she found it. I'd been careful, but she'd always been resourceful when she wanted something. Security called up to my desk, saying someone claiming to be my mother was in the lobby demanding to see me. I went down because I knew she wouldn't leave otherwise. She looked different. Older, thinner, tired. Her hair wasn't done the way she usually kept it. She was wearing clothes I recognized from years ago, before Dad died. She started talking before I even reached her fully. She said she needed to talk to me, that this had gone on long enough, that I was her son and I had responsibilities. I told her I didn't have anything to say to her. She started crying then. Real tears, the kind that made the security guard look uncomfortable. She said she was sorry about what I'd overheard, that they hadn't meant it the way it sounded, that they were just venting and I'd taken it out of context. I asked her what context would make calling me a wallet with legs acceptable. She didn't have an answer for that. She tried a different approach. She talked about my father, about how he'd want us to stick together, about how family was everything to him. She said I was dishonoring his memory by abandoning them in their time of need. That made me angry. Actually angry, not just numb. I told her that Dad would be ashamed of all of them. That he worked hard his entire life and never expected anyone to carry him. That he raised us to be independent and capable, and they'd spat on that by choosing to be parasites instead. She flinched like I'd hit her. I told her that I wasn't abandoning them. I was saving myself. And if she truly loved me as a son and not as a source of income, she'd understand that. Then I walked away. Security escorted her out. She tried calling my desk repeatedly for the next hour. I had my number changed. I heard later from my old neighbor that my mother had told everyone I'd become cold and cruel. That grief had changed me. That I wasn't the son she'd raised. Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't that person anymore. That person had gotten used and discarded. That person had been a doormat. I didn't want to be him anymore. Update 3. It's been 8 months now since I left. I got a promotion at work. Turns out when you're not constantly stressed about money and family drama, you can actually focus on your career. The raise was substantial. I put most of it into rebuilding my savings. My studio apartment is small, but it's mine. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. I bought new clothes. I started going to the gym. I reconnected with old friends who were surprised but happy to hear from me. I'm dating someone. She's a graphic designer I met at a coffee shop. We've been seeing each other for 2 months, and she doesn't know anything about my family situation yet. I'll tell her eventually, but for now, it's nice to just be a person, not someone's tragic backstory. My therapist says I'm doing well. We're working through the guilt, the years of conditioning that made me think my worth was tied to what I could provide for others. I still think about them sometimes. Wonder how they're doing. If they've learned anything. Through my neighbor friend, who I still talk to occasionally, I heard that things have stabilized for them. My mother is still working. My sister got promoted to shift manager at her fast food job and is apparently actually good at it. My brother is still at the warehouse and has been there for 8 months now, which is the longest he's held a job in years. They're surviving. Without me. Part of me wonders if I should reach out. If enough time has passed. If maybe they've changed. But then I remember that morning. The pancakes. The laughter. The way they talked about me like I wasn't even human, just a resource to be exploited. And I remember that I don't owe them anything anymore. My father used to say that you teach people how to treat you. For 3 years, I taught my family that they could use me, and I'd just take it. That my needs didn't matter. That I existed to serve them. I'm teaching them something different now. I'm teaching them that I have value beyond my bank account. That I deserve respect. That I'm more than a wallet with legs. I don't know if they've learned the lesson yet. Maybe they never will. But I've learned mine. And that's enough. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety, wondering if I made the right choice. If I was too harsh. If I should have tried to fix things instead of just leaving. Then I look around my little apartment, at the life I'm building for myself, at the money slowly accumulating in my savings account, At the future I'm actually excited about for the first time in years. And I know I made the right choice. They wanted a wallet with legs. They got 3 working adults who had to learn to stand on their own. And I got myself back. That seems like a fair trade to me.